Ashley of Trap Pray Love, and today we're going to be talking about the new thing that has everyone unreasonably mad, and that is my eyebrows. A lot of y'all in my comments have lost y'all's rabbit ass mind because, you know, free speech. If someone says some shit that you don't agree with, comment, right? You know, whatever. Right idea, wrong bitch came from this dude. And first of all, I would never ever argue with a dude like this because clearly he knows a lot about eyebrows, because look at how he chooses to pose on the internet. I would never argue with a man that knows how to pose like a bad bitch. And second of all, I was like, where's your baby daddy at? Why? Do you want him or something? I'm also not going to argue with the worst joint roller in the world and someone that looks like if he takes his glasses off, his nose is coming off with the motherfuckers as well. So let's just move along and get to the real reason why a lot of y'all are mad lately. And that is a situation at hand. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Brittney Griner. So let's get into it and let's stay out of my comments. We are going to be talking about WNBA player Brittney Griner. We're also going to be talking about Russia, Victor Bout, and a little bit about arms dealing and how the world works, because it seems like not only is there an absence of a general common sense on the business of war when it comes to people on the internet that are upset about Brittney Griner's release, there also seems to be like a complete gap with empathy. So let's just get into it. Brittney Griner was arrested in February as she was traveling to play for Russia during the WNBA offseason. Her luggage contained a cannabis-infused vape cartridge, which would have usually resulted in a fine or at the max a 15-day sentence. However, this all happened right after Russia invaded the Ukraine. So Russia, on their worst behavior, sentenced Brittney Griner to 9 years in a Russia penal colony. 9 years for a fucking vape. Vape cartridges containing the cannabis oil, but said she had made an honest mistake by inadvertently packing them. Before the verdict, she tearfully pleaded with a Russian judge not to end her life with a harsh prison sentence. The court also gave her a 1 million ruble fine. On Thursday, December 8th, Griner was freed after the Biden administration negotiated for her release in exchange for Victor Bout, a Russian arms dealer who has the nickname the Merchant of Death. She was freed. I was honestly like super happy. I was excited. I was like, good, because she didn't deserve to be there anyway. Like, even according to Russian law, which she broke a Russian law, the Russian law says 15 days in prison, the max of a sentence. Because let's be clear about this. A lot of people break that law when they're traveling in and out of Russia. She's not the only American that plays basketball over there. She's not the only person that travels through Russia. And sometimes Americans and things like this does happen. And the most that they get are fines. However, with Russia being on their worst behavior with Ukraine and not giving a fuck about how we're dealing with the Ukraine right now, we as an Americans, they decided to give her 9 fucking years. So when I heard that she was released, I was like, okay, cool. But the right seemed to like lose their fucking minds.
I want to add in Tennessee Cowgirl, who's saying they need to release all the J6ers. How about people who maybe, did something really small and they've been in that DC gulag for over a year in some cases. And so think about the priorities of this administration and how far they're off. But you brought us.
So it's really sad. Like, you think about all of these people, these Americans that are sitting in jail in a gulag.
Yeah. And we release this Russian arms dealer.
Entitled, spoiled brat.
1,000 AKs to guerrilla drug dealers who were killing DEA agents. So we traded him for her. And, this guy was responsible for countless deaths of Americans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Why do I have a feeling if President Trump were in office, it would have been handled so much better?
Brittney Griner despises the United States. She's been very vocal about that. This country is so repellent and immoral that 2 years ago she said, quote, "I honestly feel we should not play the national anthem during our basketball season." She hates the country so much she doesn't want to hear its anthem. That's the kind of position that gets you rewarded by Joe Biden. Hate America? Perfect. We'll free the guy who sold weapons to drug cartels to get you out early.
Because it's very stupid and it's just like misplaced hate and racism. But let's back up a bit here and talk a little bit about why countries capture prisoners anyway. Of war, capturing someone could mean that you can hold them for ransom, exploit them for free labor, prosecute them for war crimes, etc. There's a lot of reasons why other countries will hold prisoners from other countries. But this was not the case with Brittney Griner. She's not like a war prisoner. Like, Russia is not currently in conflict with the US, like in a physical conflict where you capture Americans. She had a vape pen that happened to have cannabis oil in it. And even under their law, the max sentence would be 15 days in prison, not 9 years. So Russia was using her as a way to negotiate something else. Okay. And that's something else, which we found out was Victor Bout. And let's talk about him for a second. He's one of the world's most wanted men before his 2008 arrest on multiple charges related to arms trafficking. Basically, Victor sold weapons to anyone with a pulse, often selling weapons to fighting parties on both sides. Recently referred to Victor Bout as the Russian Tony Stark, and that is so hilarious to me because Victor Bout is not by any means, in my opinion, as smart as Tony Stark would be, nor is he like a superhero or inventing super suits and shit. Like, if anything, Victor Bout is like your normal drug dealer in your neighborhood that does not give a fuck about the neighborhood or the community at large. Like, Victor Bout is literally just a fucking capitalist. Like, that's what he is. He saw a market, he saw a need, and he's just like, fuck it, everyone's gonna be my customer. I feel like that shows in America after the Red Scare how we like see Russians as unreasonably like intimidating and scary just because they're Russians. Like, this nigga is not Tony Stark. Like, why just because he's Russian we think he's this like crazy great guy? Product of American media always showing like the Russian person being like the Russian machine and showing like the Russian accent as being like a scary and intimidating thing. So like we unrealistically look at Russian people as like the final boss when they're really getting their asses handed to them by like normal ass Ukrainians with Molotov cocktails. Like, I've also noticed that when this story broke that a lot of people don't really understand like the business of war and arms dealing as well. Conventions where worldwide military generals come just to buy weapons from each other for war. It's almost as scary and as intense as like Comic-Con, but it's like big ass worldwide conventions just for selling military grade weapons to other countries. Victor Bout is not some like fucking Russian Super Saiyan god. He even during his sentencing, like during his trial, he said that like if I weren't going to do it, someone else would. And that's true. Do you know who that someone is? The United States. In case you didn't know already, the US is the biggest arms dealer on earth. In 2020 alone, American companies made $111 billion from foreign military sales. And there is also a little conspiracy that the only reason that Victor Bout was arrested was because he started encroaching on some of the US's clients that they were intending on selling to. Sounds like a conspiracy that may not be too far off, because honestly, like, getting rid of your competition almost seems like the American thing to do. Trade. Well, the Biden administration said that in negotiation that it was either Brittney Griner or no American would be released at all. So in my opinion, given that she shouldn't have been fucking arrested anyway, that it was a no-brainer. Get her the fuck up out of there. Like, it is a very unfortunate circumstance to find yourself in. And just so you guys know, there are a lot of Americans right now in Russia. And the US has told Americans to not really hang out in Russia if they can, because unpredictable shit like this can happen because Putin is unpredictable. So in my opinion, moving forward from here, don't go to Russia. If you're an American, don't go to Russia right now. Like, don't go, because it can be a vape. It can be, who knows what the fucking law is until you break it when you go to these other countries that we're having like weird tension with. So that's my 2 cents on it. I don't think it was a bad trade. But here is like another issue that I found when just like listening to the peanut gallery and doing research on this topic that Brittney Griner was released just shows that you are a shitty person. And trading Americans in captivity, just not even Americans, trading people in captivity, getting people out of like penal colonies and shit is not like trading fucking Pokemon cards. It's not this person is worth this and this person is worth this. It really just shows how fucked up Americans are in the head. This is one of the biggest issues of the American mindset in today's society. We look down on people, not only in tough times, but we look down on people that we don't consider valuable in our society. We look at homeless people and say, get a fucking job. We eat at McDonald's every goddamn day, yet we motivate our children to do well in school by saying, if you don't graduate, you'll work at McDonald's. People online right now are referring to Brittney Griner as being unworthy of release from a Russian penal colony because in the WNBA, she doesn't make that much money. Like, what the fuck kind of mindset is that? That's the same mindset where we have people believing that Elon Musk is some great fucking genius and innovator because he's one of the world's richest people, or that the bullshit that Kanye West is spouting out of his mouth has some type of relevancy or makes some type of fucking sense because of his billionaire status. Like, we look at people's monetary value and establish how well we treat them in American society, and that is capitalism at its fucking finest, and it's so fucking weird to me. When you add empathy, the ability to understand and share the feelings of one another, you would be able to understand how strong of a person Brittney Griner had to be to cut her hair. To be a black woman with dreadlocks, and for my viewers that don't know, dreadlocks take fucking forever to dry, sometimes even days. She cut her hair because after showering, icicles would form on her hair in the brutal Russian cold and could lead to her getting sick and possibly dying because they don't give a fuck about sick people in Russian prisons over there. Like, how can anyone call someone that made a decision like that, and they shouldn't even be there in the fucking first place, a spoiled brat? We all, for a second, start thinking about other people for once. Like, that's my Christmas wish. I won't be surprised if people completely miss the whole point I was trying to make in this video and instead just hop in my comments and talk about my eyebrows. So on that note, bye y'all.